Week 26 in MLS, and teams were fighting for every inch. Top spot was up for grabs in the West, and in the East, the playoff picture was getting congested. And that's where we begin, as the Philadelphia Union hosted Orlando City.
Amongst the chasing pack in the East, Orlando was striving to recover from consecutive defeats.
2-0 in a flash. Montreal double the lead. Nightmarish for Orlando City.
As were Philadelphia,
Into the box. It'll bounce, and it goes in.
who sat just outside the playoffs.
Let's see if it flies, and it's in! Quinn Sullivan!
Commentary comes from Stephen Warnock and Phil Blacker.
It's going to be left for Kai Wagner. Tried something a little bit different, and it didn't work. Neither did the Orlando City counter-attack. Stopped before it began. Here's Shabilko. Burke forced wide. Movement in the middle. Wagner, and in! Huge deflection. Galese convinced that it's not going to count, but Philadelphia are celebrating here, believing they've forced themselves in front. Kai Wagner's deflected effort will, of course, be checked.
Shabilko in the middle of the picture with Janssen. He shoves him to the ground, almost throws him to the ground, and I don't feel that there's enough in that. He did get himself up. He continued, didn't really make too much of an argument about it. And then you've also got Shabilko and then Montero in the eye line of the goalkeeper. That's what the arguments are for. There's two arguments from Orlando City, and it doesn't look like they've won either of those arguments.
And the decision is that the goal will stand here. Pereira certainly provides that creativity, or is capable of it. I look to him to do just that again. Swings it in, clever header! Equalising goal for Orlando City. Wonderfully worked in the build-up, and they found a way through. And he's done it again, Huat. And what a week for the Brazilian. He'd never scored in his senior professional career, and now he's got two in a week.
The Union have to come out now. They have to try and attack this Orlando City team.
Montero trying to do that. This is Shabilko. The lead is restored in short order. Kacper Shabilko fires Philadelphia back in front.
And it's good play down the right-hand side, and then the pullback from Montero, and it's a lovely finish, just calm, doesn't try and lash at it, just a nice side foot into that far corner.
Sergio Santos taking on Antonio Carlos, and he's away from him and then goes down, and the referee gives the penalty. Fairly straightforward decision to point to the spot, and it's followed by the red card as well.
There was only one thing in his mind then: cut across him, make the decision difficult for him, make sure there's some type of contact. Carlos takes him to ground, and there was only one decision that the referee could make.
Kacper Shabilko against Galese in goal. To approach the last minute of the 90, Shabilko scores emphatically. Stepped up and slammed it home from the spot. The Philadelphia Union 3, Orlando City 1.
I think we have a good team, you know. We've had bad results in the last few games, and we've had some red cards and some unlucky things happen, but we have a good team. We have the same players that we did at the beginning of the season when we were playing really well. And so I think that that's something to believe in.
Orlando's Floridian rivals Inter Miami had been muscling their way into the playoff picture in the East, while it appeared the New York Red Bulls' challenge had been fading. Patrick Klimala's crisp finish, though, showed a desire to change that. This was his second goal in 4 days. And Inter Miami won't want to see this again. They let the ball bounce not once, but twice inside their penalty area. Omir Fernandez's willingness to attack it came with the ultimate reward. In a first half that was reminiscent of more early season Inter Miami, Phil Neville's team was splitting at the seams. Nicolas Figau's off-the-ball block on Klimala was deemed worthy of a second yellow card. A sheepish departure for the Argentinian and the catalyst for another South American to help the visitors run amok. Fabio's firm header put his side 3 up just after the hour, and via the same method, he scored again just before the end, as the New York Red Bulls bagged 4 goals at Drive Pink Stadium, just as they did here last season. Miami beaten for the first time in over a month.
Just above Miami and in the last of the playoff positions were an Atlanta United side starting to find serious form.
Ezequiel Barco continues his breakout 2021.
Barco's stellar displays are one major reason the 5 stripes are flying. Against DC United, they could have been 2 up inside 25 minutes had George Bello found a better option. But DC are also part of the playoff shake-up. Only an outstanding save from Brad Guzan stopped Russell Canaus from levelling the scores on the stroke of half-time. It was going to take something special to beat the Atlanta keeper, and Edison Flores very nearly found it.
Cat-like reflexes to deny Edison Flores.
This was an absorbing contest, and the home side's attacking prowess would prove too much to resist.
Joseph's at it again.
Martinez giving Atlanta a welcome 2-goal cushion, one they would need in a game of spectacular goals.
Another banger down at that end.
Felipe Martin's first goal in over 2 years pulled the score back to 2-1. But this surging Atlanta forward line soon produced more magic of its own. Bello's first of the season, owing everything to the remarkable skill of Marcelino Moreno. They were heading for a 7th win in 8 games, and though Martinez couldn't quite make it 4-1, Atlanta's early season troubles do seem a thing of the past. There was still time for Flores to fire a superb consolation at the end of a magnificent game.
Incredible goal after incredible goal.
3-2 the final score.
FC Cincinnati were thrashed by Atlanta in the week, but that was seemingly forgotten about from the off against NYCFC. Brenner remained cool when others around him failed to do the same.
Early fireworks for the orange and blue.
Cincinnati had finally won their first home game of the season 7 days prior, but just when TQL Stadium was summoning some long overdue belief, Keaton Parks punctured the atmosphere. And the second half felt very familiar. Jeff Cameron got too close to Tati Castellanos' fast-moving feet as New York City FC were awarded a penalty just before the hour. The Argentine took the spot kick and scored his 6th goal in as many games.
New York City leads 2-1 on the road.
The frustrations of a difficult season for Cincinnati came pouring out in the final few minutes. First, Alvaro Barreal was dismissed for his angry lunge. And the hosts finished up with 9 men on the pitch, following Isaac Atanga's dangerous attempt to halt Maxi Morales. Remarkably, this was NYCFC's first victory on the road since May, but one that will probably be remembered for the night when the orange and blue saw red.
Victory for the New England Revolution against NYCFC last week had kept them firmly in the ascendancy in the East. And had Tejon Buchanan found the finish to match some delightful skill, they'd have been in control against the Columbus Crew as well. But the Revs were failing to turn pressure into goals, and in the 13th minute of the second half, they were punished by Jassy Sades.
1-0 Columbus against a run of play have taken the lead.
But the MLS Cup champions are not themselves, as illustrated by Jonathan Mensah's mistake.
The Revs answer right back.
Adam Buxa's 11th of the campaign, levelling the scores, and the Revs would be left wondering how they didn't manage to win it late on. Not least because the Columbus goalkeeper Eloy Room could barely walk. He'd injured his right leg taking a goal kick and couldn't be replaced, but still saved from Buxa not once but twice in the 90th minute. As the home side rued the loss of 2 points, the crew were lifted by the bravery of their injured keeper. 1-1, the final score.
Nashville was second behind the Revs at the top of the East, while Toronto were propping everybody up. So this was a truly unexpected start.
And Toronto lead as Jacob Schaffelberg gets his second MLS goal.
TFC's form had been dreadful, 6 straight losses and without a win in 9, but they were disrupting Nashville. Ifunani Achiachara nearly blasted the hosts into a 2-goal lead after the break, but the danger still existed. Walker Zimmerman left Toronto's crossbar shaking soon after, but Nashville threats come in many forms. They moved the ball with devastating speed to cut through the red rearguard, and CJ Sapong had a goal to go with his 300th MLS regular season appearance.
CJ Sapong, a milestone night for him.
So fight or flight time for TFC, and they chose the former. Moments after conceding, Omar Gonzalez gave his side their first victory since their return to BMO Field, and how they needed it.
We stay north of the border, where Montreal knew their ambitions would be harmed if they didn't beat the struggling Chicago Fire. But the home side needed goalkeeper James Pantemis to stay sharp in a first half short on clear chances. It was after the break that the game came to life as Montreal broke through.
Quioto with a shot. Romel Quioto gives Montreal the 1-0 lead here at Stade Saputo.
Chicago were facing the prospect of a 5th defeat in what was their 6th consecutive road game, but their response was commendable. Fabian Herbers thought he'd equalised before the officials correctly brought play back for an offside in the build-up. It wasn't obvious to coach Rafael Wicki, but on the near side, Miguel Navarro had been beyond the last defender when the pass was played. It proved a turning point in the game. 3 minutes later, Mathieu Chouinier's well-judged cross brought Montreal a decisive second. An own goal from Carlos Terán, and Montreal 2-0 winners. To Austin now, where the West's bottom side welcomed a San Jose team travelling without coach Matias Almeida. He was serving a 1-match ban as a result of his actions towards officials in their midweek defeat to Real Salt Lake. Commentary comes from Chris Wise.
Collected by Alex Ring. With a little bit of space as well, and he has found Gite, fine stop, and then in from Driussi. Breakthrough for Austin very early on. Here's Fierro's delivery, and there is Marcos Lopez. What a header that is! The San Jose Earthquakes level. Marcos Lopez with one of the best headers you'll see in MLS all season. A ham from Stuver, but frankly not a hope. Driussi. This is Ring. That is Pereira. And here is Ring again. And Gallagher waiting to tap in. Free flowing from Austin. A brilliant team goal. Driussi. He's left it for Alex Ring, who has been given some space, and space that he exploits fantastically. What a first half this is turning out to be. A stellar 45 minutes for Austin FC. Flick towards Espinoza, and some space for him. And suddenly, right at the start of the second half, the Earthquakes right back in it. It is all about this first touch from Christian Espinoza to set him on his way. Jackson Yule dummies, delivered by Chofis. Behind for a Quakes corner, but they feel that they might have a case for a penalty here. part of Alex Ring does this brush. It is leg and then it is hand. The decision is penalty. Boos ring round the stadium. Showpiece for 3-3, and even though Stuver got close, the Earthquakes level again, and now it is getting a little messy. Unedifying scenes involving Stuver and others. Put away by Austin, and it has fallen nicely for Showpiece. Good save from the goalkeeper. Here he is again, and now Stuver's beaten. Absolutely remarkable. 3 second-half goals from the San Jose Earthquakes, and they have spun matters in Texas on its head. What do Austin have now in reserve to try and get themselves back into this? Ring is on a yellow card, and that was a heavy challenge. And the referee is diving to his pocket, and Alex Ring is sent off. 2 yellow cards in the space of 7 minutes. Dominguez. Fagundes. Andriussi. And Fagundes, and nobody could get the crucial touch. Goalkeeper did really well. JT Marcinkowski to the rescue for the Earthquakes. Hanging on in there against MM. In it comes Cascante, and again the goalkeeper with a critical touch. Fingertips that might well have delivered the Quakes all 3 points.
In the end, it's difficult to swallow that result, given the emotion and the intensity and kind of the response and what it looked like the last 25-30 minutes. But you got to be buttoned up for 99 minutes, and that's clearly what we have to continue to get better at.
San Jose's state rivals, the LA Galaxy, were also on the road as they travelled to a Minnesota side that had been struggling to score. Step forward, Emanuel Reynoso. Reynoso's return from injury was to prove a timely boost for the Loons, who'd failed to find the net in 4 of their previous 6 games, a damaging run for their playoff ambitions. But here, the number 10's presence was energising the whole arena. With 2 goals in less than 20 minutes, Reynoso had doubled his own tally for the entire season. But Minnesota would still need their goalkeeper to protect the advantage. Tyler Miller standing tall to deny Dejan Lovolic before half-time. The Galaxy had gone 5 games without winning, their longest such run of the season, and their playoff position looks less secure than it did a month ago. And when Sébastien Leget's brilliant pass ended up in Miller's arms, they could reflect that fortune wasn't on their side. For their part, Minnesota were dispelling the doubts that had been creeping in. And when Ethan Finlay beat the offside trap, the clinching goal was there for the taking.
He must! He does! Ethan Finlay makes it 3!
Minnesota's biggest win of this campaign, 3-0.
There were a trio of Cali sides on the road this week as LAFC faced the Portland Timbers, but they squandered a glorious first-half chance at Providence Park. Brian Rodriguez provided catching practice for the crowd. And less than 2 minutes later, the Timbers dished out a classic case of further footballing punishment for Rodriguez. Dairon Asprilla really couldn't miss as he nodded the hosts in front. It proved to be a pretty frantic few minutes. Jose Cifuentes' free kick struck the right arm of Sebastian Blanco inside the penalty area, something the referee did very well to notice. Christian Arango scored the spot kick. This, his 6th goal in 5 matches. though it was the Ecuadorian Cifuentes who was having one of those days. His raw ambition almost saw him score what would have been one of the goals of the season in MLS. But instead, he was left with the tag of one of the misses of the campaign. Teed up by Arango, just about everybody expected to see the net ripple. The Timbers have been surging up the Western Conference of late. 3 wins in their last 4 became 4 from 5 when George Fauchier powered in a winner with 22 minutes remaining. A harsh lesson in ruthlessness for LAFC.
In Utah, the return of Freddy Juarez was an obvious headline. The man who'd left the top job at Real Salt Lake back as Seattle's number 2. A bolt from the blue at the time, much like Aaron Herrera's spectacular volley. Herrera, a player who'd progressed hugely in Juarez's time as RSL coach and whose wing play made a telling impact early in the second half.
Back onto his right foot, Johnny had it down and in! Shylock, his 10th of the year!
1-0 up and showing their old coach what he'd left behind, Real produced the best move of the match. Albert Rusnak only denied by outstanding work from Stefan Fry in the Sounders' goal. And with less than 10 minutes left, Seattle pushed for an equaliser. But when Freddy Montero's header flashed the wrong side of the post, RSL had a valuable victory with extra meaning.
Positioned within striking distance of the Sounders in the standings, the Colorado Rapids, who were on a 9-match unbeaten run. Michael Barrios' early hit would have made the Vancouver Whitecaps nervous of what may lay ahead. It was no false alarm either. Before the half hour, Danny Wilson thumped the Rapids ahead. But Wilson's night was about to change. His under-hit pass set Vancouver moving, and Brian White's devastating finish left the Rapids defender ruining his costly mistake. Colorado did have Eunice Namli fit again after more than 4 months out following ankle surgery. The Dane was one of 3 to be repelled by a wall of Whitecaps. Robin Fraser's team also missed the chance to go level on points with the leaders SKC.
Last and by no means least to the all-Texan affair between the Houston Dynamo and FC Dallas. Houston had started quickly against Austin in their previous home game and repeated the feat in this one. Griffin Dorsey getting the ball rolling in just the 5th minute. Both sides have ground to make up on the playoff positions, but if Houston can keep feeding Fafa Pico with chances, they may have hope yet. This a 7th in 8 games for the former Dallas man, and Houston 2 up inside 20 minutes. Dallas have been nothing if not adventurous of late. Brandon Cervania almost adding to the team's total of 13 goals scored in the last 5 outings. But the second half saw the game slide further in Houston's direction. Brian Acosta planting his foot on top of Tim Parker's. By no means the hardest of fouls, but enough for the referee to point to the spot. With Darwin Quintero converting, it was 3-0 Houston. The 4th time in 5 games, the Dallas defence had let 3 goals in. What followed was a spirited final push for a team that perhaps sensed their coach's job was in the balance. Hader Obrian pulled one back, 3-1 with 5 minutes to go. The seconds were ticking away for Dallas and for Luchi Gonzalez after more than 2.5 years in charge. And even though Obrian cracked in his second to bring the score back to 3-2, time was up for Gonzalez as FC Dallas head coach.
That defeat for Dallas saw them drop a place, leaving an all-Texan bottom 3 in the West. The top 6 remain as they were, though Minnesota replaced LAFC in the final playoff position.
In the East, victory for Philadelphia lifted them into the playoff places at the expense of DC United, who dropped 3 places. The Revs' lead at the top is now 15 points.
We leave you with this week's Wonder Goals.
Wow! difficult. With a banger! Felipe on the volley, what a strike! Incredible goal after incredible goal!
Emanuel Reynoso! Back to the bang!
This copyrighted broadcast of Major League Soccer may not be retransmitted, reproduced, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of Major League Soccer.